So here she is as she stands today. Man, it's been a while, but long time coming, and here she is. I'm stoked to finally get this video going. So it's been a long time coming. I've been away for a while, but finally I'm able to show and reveal the finished product of the YZ85 105 Super Mini. I'm going to get into some details today, how it's been riding, and I've put a few hours on it, not a lot, but I was able to ride it for a little bit, and I'm going to explain about what I did and how fun this little ripper is. Overall, I'll give some impressions, some things that I think are fun about the road on it, but also some things that are like definitely a big maintenance thing. I mean, these things, you have to maintain them and you have to stay up on it because two strokes on the road, good and bad, but man, they're fun.
A few moments later.
So I wheeled her outside real quick just because I wanted to get a little bit better lighting. So I'm outside on my little cement pad right here, so just a little bit better lighting for her, and just explaining some things. So first of all, first thing you notice is the graphics. They're from eBay. They're just some graphics that I bought off eBay just for the 2020 YZ85, because I think from 02 all the way up till 2020 they're the same. So I ended up putting a plastics kit on it, the brand new plastics kit from I think it's UFO Plastics. So the only thing original to the bike is the tank, the front fender, number plate, side plastics, rear plastics, all that. I've gone over that before in other videos. So I actually got some wrap. This is some like carbon fiber wrap from the auto store, and then I cut out my own KYB for the suspension logo there, just to freshen that up a bit. Second thing you'd probably notice is the wheels. Again, I have these in other videos, but they're from online. They're some Chinese brand, but they work. They're 14s, and they've worked really well so far. Spokes have stayed tight, everything. They're actually tubeless. I went over that as well in other videos. So I have tubeless wheels, even though they're spokes. I put some like tape around it. And then I got some Pirelli Diablo Rosso tires from Scooter Tires wrapped around the wheels here. Here's a shot of the engine. Got Boysen factory racing covers. I painted these, and then also they're magnesium covers, clutch cover, and then the ignition cover on this other side. I painted the inner clutch cover as well, and then I just cleaned up the aluminum on the regular engine. I have Moto Tasserani V-Force 3 reeds, stock carb, and then again factory racing Boysen cover on the ignition, and then I have just a generic gold chain. Got new sprockets front and rear. Pretty much it. As far as the engine, it's a 105 bored out from an 85. I had a different head on here. It came with a different head, but it wasn't machined correctly, and it was made for an 85, even though they put a 105 in it. So they had the wrong head, so the piston was coming up, and it wasn't quite hitting it was messing up the squish, basically. So the piston was coming up and not quite seating correctly at the top there, because it wasn't machined out big enough. So basically, to say in other words, inside of the motor was a 105, and the top of this was smaller in diameter because it's made for an 85cc piston. So it had to get a little bit bigger, and no one machined it out on the other head. So I just went back to a stock head, and then, so this is an 85 head, and then I put it on a lathe and then machined it out a little bit bigger just to create room for the 105, for the piston, for the dome of the top of the piston to come up. So inside the airbox, I actually have a 9800 milliamp hour DC 12 volt DC battery, so I can put my finger in here and flip the switch for it, and it'll turn on the tail light. So I actually have a tail light that I 3D printed this bracket, and then also used the same screws as the mud flap. So I have this little bracket heading up, and then I have a 3D printed piece that's holding the tail light here. The tail light that I'm using is an LED light from Revival Cycles, actually, out of Austin, Texas, and they they sell them, and they're called the Supernova LED, and it's extremely bright. So it doesn't look super bright right now, but at night it's extremely bright, and I've never had any issues. I highly recommend. I'm pretty sure they're made in America, and they have a CNC'd aluminum outer casing, and then the LED light, red LED light on the inside. Very easy to use, very simple. So highly recommend those. So I made up my own wiring harness from the rear all the way to the front, and then so I have my front brake here, and it's hooked up to a switch, pressure switch here. I think it's from Tusk Racing. That's going to be from Rocky Mountain ATV. It's a pressure switch that's hooked up to my the rest of my wiring harness, and I have a little dashboard thing that I made out of a little sheet of aluminum here that I pinched underneath of my bar riser clamps. I have a key switch that's separate from the rest of the wiring harness, and the key switch goes to the coil. So basically the coil has two wires coming out, and I just hooked the coil, one of the ends to here, basically in line, so one of the coil wires is separated by the key switch. So if I turn it off, it won't allow any power to go to the coil. Very simple, very easy, just a little bit of a theft deterrent. And then right here I have a switch, toggle switch that's hooked to the LED light, just a cheaper Amazon LED light, and it's a 6 LED bar. I think this is 8 inches wide. Not sure. I'll probably have a link to that in the description, just because they're super nice. They come about 2 of them, and there's about $20, $25, something like that. The bike came with these Mika bars, so I'm gonna leave these on here just because they're already on here. I really like these MA grips, or EMIG, I'm not sure how to say it, but they're the clip-ons, or the Titans with an Allen wrench, so you just slide it on and tighten it on. Super easy to use, super nice. I highly recommend those. So basically, for legal purposes, I use this and just charge it up, and then if I ever need to use it, I can just use the buttons here. But yeah, overall, it's pretty much just for street legal purposes. So for actually riding this thing on the road, I recommend it if you have other bikes. I don't recommend it as a one-off only bike that you have. I mean, look at it. I like the looks of it. I like the design that I went with. The half color wheels, everything. It definitely is an eye catcher, but overall, not the best thing to have all the time, for sure. You can either follow a spark plug, you make sure that you bring tools with you, things rattle loose. There's all sorts of different things that I run into. You just got to be one with the machine, pretty much. I know it sounds cliche and kind of corny, but you got to be one with it, just because you got to understand what's going on at all times, because it's a 2-stroke. There's no engine braking, so you got to always pull in the clutch all the time, always shifting up and down constantly. It's just like, it takes a lot of skill, in my opinion, to understand truly the nature of a 2-stroke, and especially riding it in the street. Because I mean, it's rough on the transmission, it's rough on the whole thing. So you got to be careful, one with the machine, understanding what's happening. But besides that, overall, I mean, it's a blast for sure. Like, don't get me wrong, it's fun. It's a Grom eater for sure. We have a lot of Groms where I live, and I love to pull up next to a Grom and then just take off, and people just don't even know what this thing is, because they see this, they're like, what's that stomach looking thing, and don't even know what a 2-stroke is. So yeah, overall, highly recommend YZ85 on the street. If it's just ripping around town, going to the grocery store, whatever you want to do, hang out with some friends, not as a daily driver, but overall, great success.